It's a blowout. 8th inning, 10-3. Bases are loaded for Verlander, who waits on a 3-0 pitch. He swings, and it's a high fly ball. Deep center field. It is gone. Home run. And a huge bat flip to celebrate. All right, Ben, start the show already.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Flippin Bats with your host, Ben Verlander. We got another exciting one today. Of course, the storylines that I will get to in a second. I have a good friend of mine, a college teammate, a starting pitcher for the Tampa Rays joining me today, Ryan Yarbrough. I have the hotline questions where you guys call in and ask me whatever you want. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. Of course, Six-Tool Player of the Week. And another poll from Twitter, the Flippin Bats Twitter. So if you're not following Flippin Bats Pod on Twitter, make sure you do it. So another fun episode today. Let's get right into it. I want to start with some storylines. And this should be a storyline that everybody should be talking about. Jacob deGrom. I need to talk to you guys about what Jacob deGrom is doing. Jacob deGrom is having the best season to this point a pitcher has had ever. It's absolutely insane what he's doing. He went out the other day, through 6 innings, struck out 10 guys, lowering his ERA. That was a .67 to now a 0.56. His ERA in June is 0.56. It is incredible. Through 61 2/3 innings, he's eclipsed the 100 strikeout mark, which is the first time a pitcher has done that since 1893. Guys, this is special. This is really, really special, what we're watching when Jacob deGrom takes the mound. And I wanted to bring in nobody's better to talk to him about Jacob deGrom than a guy that calls his games every night. Play-by-play guy for the New York Mets, Wayne Randazzo. Wayne, thank you so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Ben, you got it. Happy to be on.
So let's talk deGrom. What is it like getting to call his games on a night in and night out basis? What we are seeing is unprecedented, and you're right there at the field every time he takes the mound getting to watch him.
I mean, it's incredible. It's really a privilege, first of all, to be able to do this and to be able to watch Jacob deGrom every fifth day. And, I've been with the Mets since 2015, so I've seen most of his career except for the Rookie of the Year season in 2014. So I've seen a lot of it, and Jacob just continues to get better and better every time he goes out there. And his teammates describe him as a guy who just wants to embarrass his opponent every time he goes out there. And that seems like that's what he's been doing for most of his starts this year. And you forgot one of the craziest stats of all of them. He's the first pitcher since RBIs and earned run average started being recorded to have more RBIs than earned runs allowed in his first 10 starts in a season. So he's really a special player. He's probably the best player the Mets have overall. He has great speed. He can swing the bat. And, of course, the pitching. He really is a legitimate MVP candidate right now. The Mets have never had an MVP in a season.
Well, that would be just fitting for their first MVP to come from a starting pitcher. And as to this point, nobody is more deserving than Jacob deGrom. And I was actually going to get to the hitting side of things because I'm obsessed with Shohei Ohtani. And what he's doing out on the West Coast is obviously impressive and should be talked about. Now, Jacob deGrom is no Shohei Ohtani with the bat, but he's getting to the point where it's like we need to talk about this guy's hitting. Like, he's hitting great. Like you said, he has more runs batted in this year than runs given up. That is absolutely insane. The guy actually has a pretty good swing, right?
He does. He's batting .400 this year. So, Ohtani obviously could do it day in and day out and have great power and all that. But Jacob deGrom, especially in those RBI situations, it seems like he's almost one of the guys you want up there in those spots. He feeds off the crowd, and when there is a clutch moment, like there was the other night, he had runners on second and third in a close game. He pops a base hit to left center. He scores 2 runs. The place is up for grabs, and that's while he's shutting out a great Padre team for the second time in a week, giving up 1 hit in 6 innings and striking out 10. He was near perfect in that game on Friday on both sides of the ball. It's just you run out of things to really describe Jacob deGrom with what he's really doing is unmatched in the history of the game. You think about Tom Seaver and Bob Gibson and Pedro Martinez and all the great pitchers in the history of baseball. Well, what Jacob deGrom has done through the first 10 starts, none of those guys have done. So when you think about this season for deGrom and seeing it through to the end, baseball deserves to see how this finishes. And I hope that Jacob can stay healthy for the entire year, make 30 starts or whatever the case needs to be, to say that this could be one of the greatest seasons ever pitched in baseball history. Bob Gibson had a 1.12 ERA in 1968. deGrom's got half of that right now through 10 starts.
It's insane. And you said it best. You've been there since almost the beginning of deGrom being in the big leagues. What is it about him? What has it's progressed every year. He seems to get better and better and better. Age is not a factor for this guy. It's almost like the older he gets, and it's not almost like it is, the older he gets, the better he's pitching. What is happening in his career that he's able to do this?
I think it helped that he was late to the stage as far as a pitcher goes. He didn't pitch even all that much in college. He didn't pitch in high school. So there wasn't a lot of mileage on his arm. He had Tommy John surgery early on in his pro career when he was still in the minor leagues. So, by and large, it's a pretty fresh arm for 33. A lot of guys get to that age and they're almost cooked at that point because they've been pitching their whole lives. And by that age, they just don't have as much as they used to. deGrom has been able to get better because of the fact that he really didn't pitch much as a young player. And now he's been able to log his innings and do so at a professional level where he's not getting abused like a lot of pitchers do on their way to the big leagues. So that's one thing that helps. Another thing is he really cares about conditioning his body, about his delivery and what that is supposed to look like. He is very in tune with how he's supposed to feel, not only physically, but how he's supposed to feel while he's pitching. And if he gets out of that, he knows how to quickly correct it. And another thing that he's good at doing is being able to correct things on the fly during a game and make adjustments. If there is a pitch that feels off, he can go to something else. One thing he has is an elite curveball. Jeremy Hefner, the Mets pitching coach, says he doesn't even need to use it because his fastball, slider, and changeup do the job. He's thrown 2 curveballs all year, but the pitching coach says if he used it, it would be elite. That's the kind of pitcher Jacob deGrom is. He's got a fourth weapon in his pocket that he doesn't even go to.
That's incredible. Wayne, one thing I can say for certainty is I am very jealous of you being able to be in the ballpark every single night when he takes the mound. I really appreciate you joining me, man. I have to have you back on anytime we talk about the Mets. So he said it best. He really did. He's getting better with age. It's absolutely incredible to watch, and the whole country is rooting for him, like Wayne said, to just stay healthy. That's all we want. I want it. The whole baseball world should want it because what Jacob deGrom is doing is special. So with that, let me welcome in this week's guest, starting pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays and a college teammate of mine, my friend Ryan Yarbrough. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, man. Ben with a long time no see. Appreciate having me. Go Arcs.
Of course, man. Dude, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but the story of how I first got to know you or met you and figured out you were coming to ODU because you grew up in Florida, you go to Santa Fe down there, and then I'm playing summer ball in the Valley League, and we're getting ready for a game, and somebody comes up to me and says, we're facing your teammate tonight. And I'm like, who? And they're like, Ryan Yarbrough. And I'm like, no, I don't know this guy. And it's like, it turns out you're transferring. And that's how I ended up facing you that game and had no idea you were coming to ODU. And then we end up becoming teammates and playing for a year there. What a run, man. I wanted to ask you about that because when I first met you, this is no lie, you were throwing like 78, 80 miles an hour. And then I could see the transformation at ODU. I watched it happen in front of my eyes, and then I saw it that next year when I was gone. What happened over the course of that year where you were able to figure out a bunch of things and go from a guy throwing 78 to 80 to a lefty, big, tall lefty throwing 90?
You got to bring up the Valley League like that, man. First of all, like that was a terrible summer. I threw awful. So the fact that I'm sure you probably hit me around and I'm like, oh, great, got to face Ben Verlander, probably the face of the program, just whack me around. So that was fantastic. It was one of those things when I got recruited by Old Dominion. That was like the biggest reason why I came there was talking to Coach Finwood and the pitching coach Tim Levine at the time. It was just, hey, this is where we can see you getting. And I knew I was really projectable. Like I said, lefty, kind of tall, lanky, but kind of nothing's changed, to be honest with you. But they knew they could get more out of me. And then that first fall, you kind of see everything they were doing. Finally getting in the weight room for the first time, long tossing, just starting to use my legs a little better. It was incredible.
I remember well you getting in the weight room because I had to see you flirting in there every day with your now wife, Nicole, who was part of the ODU athletic program. So she was in there all the time. So that's another great thing that came out of ODU is
extra motivation.
Extra motivation to lift more weight than you ever would have previously.
Yes. No, she said she wanted me to tell you hello. She heard about this. She's like, so like you're doing it, right? I'm like, well, yeah, obviously. And she's like, well, you got to tell Ben hello for me. So she wanted me to give you a little shout out for sure.
Of course. Well, of course, shout her out and tell her I said hello, please. So you got drafted that same year I did. In 2013, you actually got drafted in the 20th round by the Brewers and did not go. What went into that decision? Was there ever in your mind like, all right, I'm going to go?
Yeah, I was, especially looking back on it, just be able to, how blessed I was to go get drafted again my senior year, which is, you don't normally get two chances for a lot of guys. You kind of see guys potentially turning down and then something happening with their career. But no, I think it was kind of everything we had talked about where you kind of come in and everything happens really fast where you gain some velocity, everything you started getting attention, which is at JUCO never was looked at by a scout at all. So like pro wise. So I didn't know if I was ready because like I said, everything happened really fast. So it was some talk to my family and talking to the coaches there. They're obviously very supportive, but to be honest, everyone in my family was like, why aren't you going? Like, are you doing this or not? And I said, no. And then, like I said, lucky I was lucky enough to get drafted by the Mariners next year in the 4th round as a senior sign. So very blessed.
Well, before we get into the pro ball stuff, I normally do this at the top of every show, but I forgot because we were reminiscing about, opening up the yearbook and talking about college. But I would normally do trivia right off the top. So we got some trivia questions for you. We got a leaderboard with Reese Hoskins at the top. He's got an 8, Jeff McNeil and Wade Miley right below. So we got a trivia question, 60 seconds, all stuff about your career. You ready?
Well, let's do it.
All right, ready? First MLB strikeout against?
Brock Holt.
Yes. Who was the first MLB batter you faced?
Oh, someone from the Red Sox. I don't know. Devers? Bogarts?
It was Bogarts. Who was the first MLB home run allowed to?
No. I don't know.
Max
I probably should
Kepler.
know that one.
Who was your first MLB win against?
The Red Sox.
Yes. Number of pitches thrown in your first start?
Like 70-ish?
88. What was your jersey number in your debut?
48.
Yes. Who relieved you in your first MLB start?
Andrew Kittredge?
No. First away game that you pitched in, where was it?
First away games. That would have been Chicago?
No. Boston. That's it.
Oof. This is embarrassing. My gosh.
You're not doing our ODU education great, dude. Let's see what you missed there. Well, you guessed half the Red Sox lineup on who was the first batter you faced. You got Bogarts in there at some point, but I think your first guess was Devers. Kepler was your first homer, 88 pitches. Matt Andriese, and how do you say it? Andriese?
Andriese.
He was who relieved you. Yeah. All right. Yeah, dude. Yeah, your first away game's in Fenway. How do you not remember that one?
Yeah, I feel like I'm only reason I said Chicago is we're in Chicago right now, and I just remember because we come here every first road trip except this year, and we're freezing in like the snow and like 40-degree weather. So it's just on my mind right now, apparently.
Oh, God. All right. So then you end up getting drafted by the Mariners. Drafted in the 4th round, I believe, right? By the Mariners?
Yeah, 4th round.
So one question I ask everybody when they join me, because, I experience the minor league life and the grind of the minor leagues and have a million stories from the minor leagues. And baseball is so unique that everyone experiences it. What is one story that you have from the minor league days that'll stay with you forever?
I think anytime I've been lucky enough that I've played on a lot of winning teams in the minor leagues. So I think if anything, it's just the celebrations. I feel like those have been the biggest things, or maybe not the most family friendly, but when you kind of go out after ended up being in Durham in 2017, we clinched and we had a day game, unfortunately, the next day. And we obviously went out to celebrate. And I don't think most people got back to their places until the sun came out and then you go play back to the stadium and play a 1:00 game. Let's just say it didn't go that great.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine it goes so great, but whatever, you'd already clinched, you're good. So
yeah, it's the end of the year, you're having fun.
Right. So then you get traded, you become a member of the Tampa Rays organization, and then you make your debut in 2018 in Boston, and you give up 1 run, strike out 3 in 4 innings of work. Take me back to that day and making your MLB debut in Fenway Park, even though you didn't remember that it was in Fenway. But take me back to that day of making your debut in a place like that against the Red Sox.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because I just got added to the roster that offseason. So at that point, your whole goal is, okay, I'm going to try to make the team out of spring. And normally teams are kind of set going in from the offseason. So you're just trying to make a good impression. And I was lucky enough to make the team out of spring. And it actually ended up being, I think it was at the Trop. But the biggest thing from it was I came in relief. We were actually wearing, those throwbacks we wear now, the Devil Ray ones.
Oh yeah, those are sick.
So they were, luckily enough, that was the cool one I got to make my debut in. And I'll have to find it or send it to you later. It was Brad Miller was playing first base for us. And there was literally a pop-up in foul territory, literally right by our dugout. He just like full sprint mode and just makes a sliding basket catch right in front of our manager, Kevin Cash, in like one of my first few innings. And I'm like, all right, welcome to the big leagues. This is how it goes here, man.
Yeah, you're like, welcome to the big leagues. Ben wasn't making that play at Old Dominion for me. That's what you were thinking.
Oh, my gosh. No, you're just hitting homers, man.
So you go on to have an awesome rookie year. Led rookies in wins, and rookie wins in franchise history. You're second on the team in wins. You threw great all year. What was it coming over to the Rays that resulted in a year like that? Because you weren't, I had been watching you your whole career and coming up, and this is nothing against you when you were with the Mariners, but it's almost like you had a complete overhaul, a complete change, and became the pitcher you are today with the Rays.
Right.
What about that organization turned you into the pitcher that you are now and became that rookie year where you had so much success?
Yeah, I think it starts off with getting into pro ball with the Mariners. That they kind of like helped me like set the foundation, kind of go how about your business, who you are as a pitcher. And then getting traded over the Rays was probably the biggest thing, when the fact of I remember talking to my agent at the time, and he was like, this is the best thing that could have happened to you. Like, they're so great at developing pitchers. And so when I got traded over that first spring training, at the end of it, when I got sent down to minor league camp, they were like, hey, we want you to work on a little tighter breaking ball, nothing to add to your repertoire. And it ended up turning into my cutter. I didn't throw it until I got to the Rays, which has become a huge part of my game right now. So, and luckily I was able to have Kyle Snyder, our current pitching coach, every year I've been with this organization. I had him in 2017 in AAA, and he's been my big league coach every year I've been up. So we've been able to kind of grow together, and continue to get better.
So your agent even said it, and everybody knows this. The Rays develop pitchers better than anybody else. What is it? Like, what is it that makes them so good at this?
I think it's just they have such a good eye for talent, and maybe you kind of see guys that maybe don't have success other places, or maybe not getting a shot, and then they come here, and everyone's like, "Where'd this guy come from?" I think that everybody has always been good. They just maybe are getting the opportunity or fine tune a couple of things, and you kind of see every single year there's at least multiple guys who come up and have a lot of success with us. So they just have such a good eye for talent and how to develop guys, and it's just impressive the amount of the great arms we have here.
So then we go towards your second season, and you make the team out of spring, and you really struggle your first 3-4 appearances, and then you actually get sent down to AAA, and you're not there long, and you come back up, and you're back. You're back to being the guy you are now. You're throwing great. By the end of July, your ERA was back to under 4 in a great place. What happened when you went down? What did you figure out?
It's just, I think I got maybe had some things happen in spring where you don't really get on the best place where you want to be. And like I said, your first couple outings, they don't really go well. And to be up all year, the year before in your first full year, which doesn't happen to a lot of guys. And right away, you're just wanting to continue that success and you don't, it sucks. And so you kind of have to go down for a little bit and really fine tune some things. And I was lucky enough that the pitching coach down in AAA, Rick Knapp, was great for me, kind of helped me get back in sync and get back to who I am. And when I got back to the big leagues, I ran with it.
I talk about this a lot just because I know, at least from the hitting perspective, how mental baseball can be and how tough it is on you and how much it wears on you. When you were going through that stretch in the big leagues and then got sent down, was it all physical, or were you going through some stuff mentally too, or you're like, I just can't, this is awful?
Yeah, and especially with, like I said, being up all 18 my rookie year, to not really have to experience like that, going up and down between AAA and the big leagues, which a lot of guys can do during the year. To be able to finally experience that when you've had some success, it's a weird, it weighs on you mentally when you're like, man, what am I doing? I know I could be there right now. What things just aren't going my way. So you definitely got to work through some things, but at the same time, you just got to worry about, hey, if I just take care of my stuff on the field here, I'll be back there. I know that. There was never anything like, oh my God, this is all unraveling. It was just a matter of getting back to where I need to be, and I know I'd be back.
Yeah, and then you quickly got back to where you needed to be. And one thing I always wonder with pitchers, especially from the Rays, is you guys kind of adopted the bullpen game, and just literally anybody up at any moment. Your starting pitcher your starter or your closer could start a game. What is it like? What was your first reaction when you heard about this? Like, it's different than any organization. So when you first hear, yeah, we're going to have some bullpen games, or the starter's going to go 2 innings, is your thought like, all right, fine? Or are you like, well, shoot, I wanted to throw 6?
Yeah, I think it was, the first time it happened, we were in Anaheim, and I think it was like the getaway day, or maybe not. It was like one of the middle games, and Kyle Snyder, pitching coach, was like, hey, I knew it was my day to throw, so I knew in some capacity, like, hey, Sergio Romo's going to start tomorrow. And I'm just like, you mean our closer? Like the guys like at the back end of our bullpen? Like, what are we doing here? So everyone was like, what I have no idea if this is going to work. And then he goes out there, and I think he punches out the side or something crazy, because you got 3 great righties up there, and they're like, all right, here's the game you're in. I'm like, okay. Like, and we won the game, and we're like, is this a new thing? Is this going to be normal? Like, what just happened? Like, no one had heard of this. And then me and Ryan Stanek did it like the rest of the year and a lot of 19, and you just kind of saw the results of it.
So do you know like what goes, so you hear Sergio Romo's going to start. Is there something in their mind like, okay, we're going to start Romo now because he's guaranteed to face these 3 batters and he has success against those guys? Like, what goes into that decision randomly being like, yeah, we're starting Romo today?
Yeah, I think because he only did, I think, that one time just because of how important he was back into the bullpen. But it was just they had 3 really good right-handed hitters at the top of the order, and with his slider, it's just a great matchup for him. So I feel like that was the initial thought process. And then it kind of continued to do that with Stanek and whoever would potentially do it for the rest of the year. And then you kind of get also the sense of, look, Ryan Stanek, he throws 100 with some nasty stuff, and then no offense, I'm not. So like got me coming in afterwards, and it's a completely different look for guys for different at bats. And I'm sure for you, if you're not getting multiple bats against one guy and you're just having to say, oh, great, this guy gets thrown 100 for one at bat, let's just hang with him and see what happens.
100%. I would much rather face a dominant pitcher and get to see him for 3 or 4 at bats than good pitchers seeing them once and it just rotating. Right. It's tough. And you talked about it. So there's a lot of guys in the league right now, more so than ever before, throwing 100 with nasty stuff. And you're out there having a lot of success and being the guy you are without throwing 100 miles an hour and not having that sort of stuff. How are you finding success in the league today without having that dominant 100-mile-an-hour stuff that a lot of the league has?
Yeah, I think it's just been one of those things we're talking with Kyle Snyder, pitching coach, and like I said, being with him over these years of how can you go about being successful by not having this big fastball with you. So for me, it's the cutter up and in on guys, the keeping guys off balance and making them get uncomfortable at the plate and getting ahead of guys. So they're going to have to like make decisions later in counts where maybe they would take balls if they're ahead in the count. So I've just been having some success with that. And look, you've even said it with guys on our team. We got multiple guys, even in our starting rotation, who throw high 90s plus. It's impressive where the game's going these days.
Yeah. You got Glass now in that rotation, who is actually my first ever guest on this show. And I don't know if you know this, but there's some good luck that comes from this podcast. So I'm also looking forward to you going out and shoving for the rest of the year. Even though you have been already, you just threw a complete game in Yankee Stadium. That's pretty sick. How was that?
It was crazy. It was I feel like as a pitcher, your whole goal is to go as deep as possible, but with how the game is played, you've kind of seen, especially with the Rays, we haven't thrown one since like 2016 or something. Yeah. It's been like 5 years, so it doesn't really happen here. So to be able to, after the 7th inning, where they're normally Cash will tell you right away, if like, hey, that's it, appreciate it, great job today, or so he instantly like walked into the dugout, he's like, hey, keep going, and I'm like, all right, cool, let's do this. And then after the 8th, I'm like, well, at this point, I'm not coming out, and he didn't say anything again, and so. At that point, I knew the game was mine, and it was just a matter of getting the job done.
After the 8th, is that inning where you walk in and just don't make eye contact with him and hope he doesn't like come find you and tell you he's done?
Yeah, we unfortunately had we went through a similar scenario in Seattle in 19, and so I had an idea of how to talk to him about it this time because we getting pulled in the 9th inning at that moment in 19. So. I knew I was going to be able to go out there and finish and talk my way into doing it regardless, but he didn't say anything. And our pitching coach goes, hey, this is your inning. Let's go out and do it. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, that's all I need to know.
What is your way of talking to him if he had brought it up? Remember 2019 in Seattle? We're not doing that again.
Yeah, I don't know. At that point, after 19, he kind of, because it kind of ended up being a thing, I guess. But we sat down and talked about it. And I'm like, I understand why we did it. But I'm like, next time, like, I'm going to finish it. Like, this isn't happening again. He's like, fair enough. So I was just going to bring that up again and see how he reacted.
I love that. So, and then now we get to the 2020 season. You guys are, from start to finish, the best team in the American League, the best team in baseball. And it kind of always seems to just slide under the radar. I don't know what it is about the Rays, but you guys never seem to get the respect you deserve. So 2020, you guys get into the playoffs, you beat everybody, you get into the World Series, and you get to start Game 4 of the World Series. How was that day? Are the nerves, obviously the nerves are different, but just walk me through that day for you.
Yeah, especially where anything can happen with the Rays. Like, they like using all their guys at any moment. So when they told me I was starting, I was super ecstatic and happy. But at the same time, I was trying to like tell myself not to like, hey, it's just another game. Like, let's not just like over amplify this thing, even though like obviously it's the World Series, but you're not trying to like talk yourself into trying to do too much out there. So I just tried to go about my normal routine the day before, just kind of got some sleep. It's tough because they're night games, so you have all morning to kind of think about some things at times. So you're just like, all right, I just want to get to the field. I just want to start get moving around. And then you go out there, and I think I got through like 3 or 4 innings, gave up a couple home runs, which is just, you're aggravated, so you're down. But then that game was ridiculous. It was incredible how it just kept going back and forth. I think it was some 6 or 7 half innings of run scoring every half, which was never happened before or something. And then you have Brett Phillips walk it off. Just the most memorable game I'll ever be a part of.
Is that the most memorable moment from that World Series for you? That game, that Brett Phillips moment?
Yeah, I think so. And I was pretty cool where I was pretty aware at the time where guys are getting stuff signed and wanting stuff to hold on to and cherish. And like I said, I was able to start. So I had them recreate the lineup card, and I had to let everybody on our team sign it, especially since we won that game. So I'm getting that thing framed and going to be hung up in our house somewhere, just to kind of be like, yeah, I was a part of that incredible game, and just a cool little talking point down the road, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. So we've talked about what it is with the Rays, pitching and how they transform guys into being the pitchers that they are. But what is it with, like, I don't know, you look at the Rays going into every single season, and they don't have the roster on paper that, let's say, the Dodgers have, or like the New York Yankees. But you guys are constantly, for years now, the best team in the American League, one of the best teams in the American League every year. And already this year, you're the first team to 40 wins, and you're in first place in the AL East and playing great. Is it a cultural thing with you guys, or is it the coaching staff, or what is it that makes the Rays so great with the roster that they have?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think for one, it's the culture is definitely super important, and the fact of everyone buys in. I think that's just due to the fact of the coaching staff we have, where they create that environment to just be yourself. But at the same time, if they make a decision, there's always a reasoning behind it. It's not just on a whim, and they can explain it to you that way. So I feel like it makes it easier for guys to buy in at the beginning, especially coming from different places. So that, and like I said, guys buying in, doesn't matter what they do, as long as they're contributing, they're extremely happy, and we're putting a great product on the field right now. And it also attributes to our depth. I feel like that's been the biggest thing, especially going from 60 to 162. You got to have a lot of great guys, and it's not just 26 guys, it's the full 40-man roster, sometimes more. So we got a ton of depth, and that definitely helps us out. Yeah,
it definitely feels like baseball is changing this year. Baseball, there's more buzz around it. There's more hype about it. You have all these new exciting players that are breaking all of the unwritten rules of baseball, and you're hearing all these talk about rules. If you were commissioner for a day, what is one rule that you would implement or take out for the betterment of the game of baseball?
Yeah, that's tough. I feel like I'm just extremely blessed to be able to play this game. That's been the biggest thing, is you just want to go out there and play. So whatever just creates the best product on the field. I haven't really thought about it too much, but you kind of see guys having a lot more fun. So I feel like just more incorporating that, kind of seeing a little bit more guys' personality, especially with all the social media these days, just maybe getting the outreach a little bit more where people are able to connect with them is always going to be fun, kind of get more people involved in the game.
As a pitcher, are you one of those guys that, like, if you give up a home run and a guy bat flips, are you like pissed off, or are you like, yeah, whatever, you got me?
I mean, yeah, maybe the situation, but it doesn't matter to me, honestly. Like, if you give up a home run, you're obviously making a bad pitch. So for me, I'm probably more pissed off at myself for giving the guy a pitch where he can do some damage. But I mean, especially if they really get into one, man, like, hey, kudos to you, dude.
Yep. All right, I have 3 career moment questions for you that I ask everybody, all the same questions. So the first one for you is, what was your welcome to the big leagues moment?
Honestly, I think it was that we had talked about that Brad Miller play. Just when you have incredible defense where you have a lot of good players, you play within the minor leagues, but literally when every single player behind you can make those kind of plays, it's like, okay, this is the show. This is how it goes here. So when you kind of see him make that basket sliding catch right in front of our dugout, literally right, almost sliding into our dugout, is just impressive.
What is your most memorable play that you've made on the field?
You know, you got to show up as a pitcher. You don't really get to show too much athleticism out there. But when you in the World Series, when I started in Game 4, I think I somehow got a pitch in or something on Cody Bellinger, and literally we had a super pull shift on him, and it was a little pop up to like where the third baseman would be standing, and I just instantly sprint over there and make a over the shoulder catch in the infield. You don't really see those very often, so to be able to do that, and then obviously in the World Series is pretty cool.
Pitchers are athletes, RB. Pitchers are athletes. Look at you.
We're going to make T-shirts. Don't worry. I'll send you one.
Please, I'll take it. All right. What is a moment that stands out to you that has taken place with teammates off of the field?
We've done a lot of team dinners every year. You kind of, at some point, obviously we couldn't do it last year because of COVID, but every year normally you get a team dinner where everyone on the road normally will get a humongous table or a back room or something where everyone can just kind of hang out and get to know each other a little bit better. It normally happens like maybe earlier in the year. So those are the moments you'll always kind of cherish where you're able to kind of hang out with the guys.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, one thing I always think is cool is for a few years in a row there, it seemed like the Astros, when my brother was on the team and you guys were facing off in the playoffs, and it was always really cool to go down to Tampa. And every game I would sit in the seats with Nicole, your wife, and we'd just talk and talk about you and just watch baseball. And then I'd hang out with you for a little while after the game. So those are always fun times for sure. Yarby, I appreciate you joining me, man. I really appreciate it. I'm going to have to get you back on here sometime soon for sure.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, whenever you're down in Tampa, come hang out, man. We'd love to see you.
All right. Sounds good, man. Appreciate it. All right, and thanks again to my guest, Ryan Yarbrough, for joining me. It is time to get in to the hotline questions that you guys send in, one of my favorite parts of the show, where you guys call in and voice your pleasure, displeasure, ask me questions, whatever it may be. 213-537-9339 is the number. Keep getting those calls in, but hit me with that first question this week.
What's up, Ben? With all the young guys becoming superstars now, who's the next big prospect that we should be on the lookout for?
Good question. Thanks for asking. The next big prospect to be on the lookout for. One I think that comes to mind immediately is Wander Franco in Tampa. I think everybody thought when Willy Adames got traded to the Brewers that he was going to be the guy. I'm fine with him not being the guy yet, but he is the future shortstop of the Tampa Bay Rays. He is a stud. He is absolutely insane in the field. He can rake at the plate. So he's going to be he's going to be a superstar in the game, I think. But another one I wanted to mention is a guy that was in the big leagues this year. He made it up. He had a lot of talk around him. Jarred Kelenic had a tough start to his career in Seattle. He's a huge prized prospect in the minor leagues for the Mariners. He comes up. He hits a homer early on in his it wasn't his debut game, but hits a homer early on, and then proceeds to go on an 0 for 39 stretch, hitless in like 11 games in a row. Really, really, really struggled and got sent back down. I do want to talk about him because I think he is going to be a superstar in this league. I talk about it all the time. Hitting is very mental. Clearly what he was going through was mental. It was clear as day. You watch the games, he just couldn't get a hit. He knew going up to the plate. He was walking up there with no confidence. Going on an 0 for 39 stretch on a guy with that much talent tells you it's all mental. He's going to be a stud in the league. So Jarred Kelenic of the Mariners eventually will come back up and do good things for them. And Wander Franco with the Rays is my answer to that question. So hit me with the next one.
Hey there, Ben Verlander. This is Charlotte Wilder of Fox Sports. I'm calling because you left some comments on a picture of me with Barry Bonds at the dog show, which is not a sentence I thought I'd ever say. But I want to hear your thoughts on Barry Bonds, man. He was my favorite player when I was growing up. It's about his home gym, which was kind of weird. And kind of amazing. And the dude looks great. So tell me your thoughts. I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks for calling, Charlotte. Our very own Charlotte Wilder, who was working the Westminster dog show, by the way, which was sick to watch. So good work there, Charlotte. Also, saw a picture that you posted on Instagram with Barry Bonds. That's getting into my territory. This is unfair. I want to take a picture with Barry Bonds. He's the greatest hitter that ever was. And Charlotte's at a dog show taking a picture next to him, and I see it, and I'm like, what, how is this happening? So Barry Bonds' dog was in the Westminster dog show. I was perplexed seeing this happen. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that our own Charlotte Wilder, would be there covering it? And the most fitting thing in the world is that she just happens to run into Barry Bonds and takes a picture with him, whose dog is also in it. Unbelievable, man. Like, so jealous. Not only that you got to cover the dog show, but that you got to meet Barry Bonds. Man, that was awesome, though. Really cool. Really cool to see him there. Great interview he did for Fox Sports, and Charlotte did an awesome job there. So Charlotte, thanks for calling, and I'm very jealous of you. But thank you guys for calling in as usual. 213-537-9339. Get those calls in, guys. This is one of my favorite segments of the show, so make sure you keep getting those calls in. But on to something different. On to my man, Shohei Ohtani. This week in Shohei Ohtani news, what did he do? Well, a lot. I'm glad you asked. He hit a 470-foot bomb this week, by the way. Absolutely demolished it. I have run out of words for this guy. I really have. I've run out of words for how special of a talent Shohei Ohtani is. At this point, if we're not appreciating it, you're doing something wrong. 470-foot bomb for Shohei Ohtani this week. And then fast forward to Friday, where he starts on the mound in Arizona against the Diamondbacks, starting on the mound. And look, I never want to just brush over the fact that he's starting on the mound and hitting at the top of the order for the Angels. That should never just be brushed over. So Friday, he starts on the mound for the Angels. He's also hitting. He strikes out 8 guys that night. And also, but this was the coolest part of the night, I was watching this at bat. He fouled a ball off of his leg, okay? Fouled a ball off, goes down in a lot of pain. Gets back up, walks it off, limps around, that whole thing. And then hits a laser double into the gap, doubles. He had 2 doubles that night, punched out 8 on the mound. I also saw a cool stat. He had 4 at-bats that night, right? 4 at-bats. The total exit velocity on the 4 balls he put into play was 430 miles an hour. He hit 4 balls in play at a total of 430 miles an hour exit velocity. What? This guy, I'm not even sure he's human at this point. Punches out 8, 430 miles an hour worth of exit velocity on the night. And that exact game, he balked twice. He had 2 balks on the mound. Like, this guy's doing something every single night that's like, what? Who balks back to back in a game anymore these days? Shohei Ohtani does. Not only is he brilliant at the plate, not only is he brilliant on the mound, he's also doing things that nobody else has done, but just balking guys around the base. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to punch you out, but if you get on base, I'm just going to balk you around. I don't know what this guy's doing, but I love him. I love Shohei Ohtani. And a fun little nugget before I move on. Of everybody's best pitch in the league, everybody, the worst batting average against, Shohei Ohtani's splitter. 0.037. That is the batting average against Shohei Ohtani's splitter. You don't want to see it, because if you don't, you're not getting on base. But if you do get on base, he might balk you around and then punch out the next guy, and he's going to get out of the inning because he's just that great. So that is it for this week in Shohei Ohtani news. All right, and on to our poll question from social media this week. If you are not following on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever we're on social media, at Flippin Bats Pod. We're doing polls every week. This week's poll, best hitter in the American League. Now look, before you say anything, before you say, it's Mike Trout, why is this even a discussion? Look, I know it's Mike Trout. Everybody knows Mike Trout is the best hitter in the American League, but he's hurt right now. He hasn't played in over a month. So we did not include him in this poll. So the guys we put on the graphic, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Shohei Ohtani, Xander Bogaerts, those are guys we have on the graphic. Those are guys we put in the poll, as well as other. So let's take a look at the results from the poll on Twitter and see who you guys voted as this week's poll question, best hitter in the American League. And kind of by blowout fashion, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wins the poll with 47.1% of the vote, Shohei Ohtani getting 30.6% of the vote, and someone else getting 13.5% of the vote. And I gotta believe Mike Trout has a lot of that someone else. I wanna talk about this. I wanna talk about the results of this poll because I agree. As much as I love Shohei Ohtani, and we all know I love him, he's great for a variety of different reasons. He's pitching, he's hitting, he's doing it all at a high level. The fact he's even on this graphic is a huge deal as the best hitter in the American League when he's also one of the best pitchers. But what I want to talk about is how we got this poll right on Twitter. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., what he is doing this year is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. He's lost some weight coming into this season, and it has transformed the player that he has become. Last week's six-tool player of the week, might I add, is absolutely killing it. He hit a few home runs in Fenway this past weekend, but he's not just a power hitter. The guy is hitting for average. The guy is hitting a lot of doubles. He's hitting a lot of homers. I think without a doubt, other than the obvious Mike Trout, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the best hitter in the American League right now. And I think this poll fits that well. I think winning by a good bit. I think we got this one right, guys. I think we got this one right. So make sure you're following Flippin Bats Pod on social medias because we do these polls weekly. And this week's winner of our poll, best hitter in the American League, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Speaking of last week's six-tool player of the week, let's talk about this week's six-tool player of the week. And this week's six-tool player of the week is the Chicago Cubs outfielder Joc Pederson. Man, couple things here. One, Joc gets traded over to the Cubs, right? I feel like Joc is at home here. Wrigley's back to full capacity, by the way. It just came back to full capacity over the weekend. The place is electric, and Joc is having more fun there than anybody. Look, he started the year off slow, coming over from the Dodgers to the Cubs. It was a struggle to start the year, but man, he has turned it around. He's out there flipping bats. He's out there hitting bombs. He hit a homer in 3 straight games this past week, the first of which is pretty much the reason he's our six-tool player of the week. First of the week takes place in San Diego. In San Diego, he hits a bomb there. He walks out of the box. He does his cool. He's just, all of my six-tool player of the weeks are all cooler than me. Everybody. So he walks out of the box just looking cool. He runs around the bases in San Diego, runs in front of Fernando Tatis Jr., and right in front of him at the third base bag, he does his own signature Fernando Tatis home run trot. You know, the whole thing where he's running the bases, he hesitates, he steps back, and then he runs rounds third. He did it in San Diego in front of Fernando Tatis, trolled him in front of everybody. It was great. Baseball is great. I love it. It's in great hands, and Joc Pederson is a huge reason for that, and he is turning it around for the Chicago Cubs, man, and he is so exciting to watch, and the full crowd at Wrigley is having a blast watching him. I'm having a blast watching him, and he is this week's six-tool player of the week. But before I sign off, a little fun fact that's happened over the past couple days. Hayden Shenefield, now of the Cincinnati Reds organization, the Reddit pitcher, as it's known. This guy reached out to Kyle Bodie on Reddit, who is now he's the owner and founder of Driveline Pitching. He's now an advisor in the Cincinnati Reds organization. Kyle Bodie was doing a Q&A on Reddit, And this Hayden Shenefield guy just comes on in the Q&A, asks a question and says, hey, look, I was just going to ask the question I had, but I figured I'd shoot my shot. Look, I play an independent ball. I have for 2 years. Here's my numbers on my fastball. Here's my numbers on my changeup, my split change, and my slider. Here's the rotation I get. Here's how hard I throw them. Anything we can do. Bodie actually reached back out to him, asking him to send him an email. So, of course, Shenefield does it. He sends him an email. Long story short, the Reds end up signing this guy. And over the weekend, he pitched in his first professional appearance for the Cincinnati Reds and threw 3 1/3 scoreless innings, striking out a few guys. Just an incredible story. The Reddit pitcher, as he's being known, Hayden Shenefield, reached out to a Reds advisor on Reddit and got a job, and at his first appearance, struck out a few guys, didn't give up a run. Awesome, awesome stuff. And that does it for this week's episode of Flippin Bats. I appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you're getting in those follows. Everywhere that you have social media, we have social media. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Flippin Bats Pod. Everywhere on social media. We do these polls now every week, so if you want to take part in the show and have your voice heard, obviously call in, but also follow on social medias anywhere. And make sure you're subscribing, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And I appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys, and thanks again for listening. Thanks again to my guest, Ryan Yarbrough, for joining me, and I will see you next week on Flippin Bats.
It's a blowout, 8th inning, 10-3. Bases are loaded for Verlander, who waits out a 3-0 pitch. He swings, and it's a high fly ball, deep center field. It is gone! Home run! And a huge bat flip to celebrate.
Thanks for watching. If you love Flippin Bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.